extrusion to keep those corners really tight. Let's say I don't like that. Let's say I want to have a rounded area. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in on those tight little corners over here. And I hit the S key to do it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to weld these points together. Now, again, I have to be really careful. Like, for example, I could choose all those points and I could say weld, and I could really mess up my design, right? I really messed up my design. I chose way too many points. You have to be very careful what you choose. So, but what I want to do is I want to weld these points in here together, right? I'm going to zoom in a little bit tighter. I'm going to weld these two together, just those two. And I want you to notice what comes up when I choose weld. I don't know why I can't see it here. There it is, sorry. When it comes up, first of all, everything that I have selected is chosen. And then there's a line between the 2 points. And in between is the average between the 2 points. So if I clicked right now, just click right there, what happens is it just took the center distance between those 2 points and joined them together. It welded 2 points into one. I can also do it so that it goes to the back point. You see that the white square has moved? Or I could do it where it goes to the front point. Either one. The thing is, I just want to keep in mind which one I did. And as you can see, it gave me the radius that I'm looking for. This is a little malformed. So to make sure that it's consistent, I want to do it everywhere. All right, so I'm going to weld this one as well. All right, and I did the back point, didn't I? Let's zoom in a little closer on it. Sorry. That can give you vertigo. All right, so that's good. Now I did it on the top but not the bottom. Now of course I can go in and do it on the bottom, but my design is to do it on the top. All right, so that's cool. I'm going to go over and do it on this side. The weld tool is not something that works easily automatically. Right? But we're going to just do this real quick. In other words, for example, I'll give you an example of what I mean. I'm going to weld all this back to itself. Why can't I just say weld and weld them back to themselves? Well, what happens is it takes all 4 points and it welds to one or another thing. It takes 4 points and makes them into one. It takes whatever you've got selected. If I had 50 points, it'll make 50 points into 1 point. Okay? So look here what happened to that area. It really got all messed up, right? It's got no thickness again. All those 4 points there welded into one. So we can't do this very quickly or very automatically, but that's okay because with a little bit of patience, we can grab this point and weld it. And if you remember from before, I was careful. I welded it to the back piece. And then I'm going to do the same thing over here. Weld again to the back piece. Boom. Now we have the same thing on both sides. Right? A very nice thing. Now, it is true that weld, I'm pretty sure this is true. Weld can be used. Let's just say, for example, weld can be used. Well, that's right. We tried that and it flipped. And it didn't work well. But we're just going to go ahead and bridge these two together, not weld them, but bridge them. And I'm going to the back corner and the back corner, and boom. Very good. So now I've got actually kind of a look going on there, right? If every corner had a radius to it, maybe it wouldn't be so cool. But this one is not such a bad look to it. You know, I kind of like it from a design standpoint. All right, good. Let me just check what else we're going to cover here. We just did weld. Now let's do knife. Knife is great. Before, when we wanted to make more faces on those back leg things, what we did is we used edge cut. But you can also use knife, right? And knife is one of those things. When I warned you, like when you're using the selection tool and you only select visible elements, knife has an only work on visible elements button as well. So let's go and look at knife for just a second. It works in all points, lines, and faces. We're going to choose knife here. And, oops, I chose iron. Now, by default, it comes up. You're going to do it by line. which is fine. That's almost the 99% of the time that's how I use it. Single, which is fine. Restrict to selection, visible only, and create n-gons. Well, you know from creating n-gons, we want the n-gons or we don't. We have to make up our mind. In this case, I'm going to try to make some lines or points that continue to be part of my design so I can pull the back of the chair and shape it a little bit. In that case, I don't want to make n-gons. I want quads because quads behave very well with hypernerved surfaces. Hypernerved surfaces don't like n-gons and multi-sided things. So the very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off n-gons. The next thing I'm going to do, visible only is the same as only select visible elements. So the point is if I knife, I'll just go ahead and do it. I'll knife like that. And you'll see immediately that I made a knife. I made new geometry. But if we look to the back side of this thing, right? We look to the back side, it didn't knife all the way through. Well, that makes perfect sense. When I had the knife button on, the knife tool on, it said visible only. So of course it wouldn't cut all the way through to the back because it will only cut what I can see. All right, so let's undo that. And we'll go to the other view that we had. And let's do knife again. And in this case, I'm going to do visible only. I'm sorry, I'm going to turn it off, right? And I'm going to knife to my heart's content. And when I knife to my heart's content, it turns out that I'm able to knife all the way through the object to the back side. Everything that's on the front is on the back, and vice versa. Okay? Very nice. Now, one last button that we need to learn about, and I have to say, I should say it a little differently. One last button we need to learn to ignore is the knife button that says restrict to selection. This can be helpful in some instances, but let's say, for example, I have a face selected, and then I say knife, and I've got restrict to selection on. It doesn't matter. It won't cut all the way through the object. It will only cut what is selected. Now, this can be helpful if you want to control what you're selecting, what you're cutting. But 9 out of 10 times, I set this up in the following way. Because I'm going to teach you another modifier. If I want that back to be slightly curved, and I want to be able to see it, and I want to do it in kind of a measurable, repeatable way, then actually I wouldn't knife in the perspective window. Because no matter how close I get to being straight on, I'm not straight on. I know that I'm straight on when I go to the front view. I'm sorry, this is the right view. I know that I'm straight on when I go to the right view. And when I say knife in the right view, I can actually, and by the way, I'm going to turn off that restrict to selection because I want to knife all the way through. I can hold the shift key and get knife to behave straight in a 90 degree or 45 degree or 90 degree pattern, okay? And by the way, if I wanted to be, notice that the angle over here can be changed to 22.5. So as I go to do the knife and I hold the shift key, I can go to 0, 22.5, 45, whatever 45 and 22.5 is, which I believe is 67.5, and 90. Right? That's kind of cool. So if I want to be really careful about snapping around, I can do that. And I can turn constrain on, which will only allow me, before I was holding the shift key, now I've turned on the constrain button, right? I like to use the shift key. I don't like to turn this, because then I got to go turn the constrain button off, all right? So I don't like to use the constrain button. All right, so we're pretty good, and as a rule, it likes to snap to points, by the way. I'll tell you that. It likes to snap. We can ignore that, though. So I'm going to hit the shift key. I'm going to cut all the way through on that side and cut all the way through on this side. Boom. Very nice. I have now accomplished my goal, which was to make some more geometry that I'm going to manipulate to make a rounder back. Now, there's an obvious problem.